In recent years, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has made repeated calls to revive the Russia, India, China or the RIC trilateral dialogue. It's an initiative that Moscow sees as central to building a multipolar world order outside the influence of the West. For Lavrov, the RIC is not just a diplomatic formality. It is a symbol of Eurasian strategic convergence that resists the dominance of US-led alliances. But for India, Lavrov's vision presents a dilemma. Let's break this down in today's episode of TACXplained. In the evolving post-Cold War world order, India has navigated a complex diplomatic strategy defined by autonomy, shifting alliances, and regional rivalries. However, currently India finds itself delicately balancing between competing coalitions. Chief among them are the US-led Quad, the China-led SCO, and the Russia-influenced RIC, along with the broader BRICS alliance. The first major inflection point in India's recent foreign policy came with China's dramatic rise and its increasingly assertive behavior. The 2000s and the 2010s saw China expand its influence across Asia, especially through military modernization, aggressive border posturing, and economic initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative or the BRI. China's rise became a concern for India as it shares a long contested Himalayan border with China and has experienced severe military conflicts with it, especially since the 1962 war. Now, the turning point was the 2017 Doklam standoff and the very deadly Galwan Valley clashes in 2020. These incidents underscored the volatility of the Sino-Indian border and accelerated New Delhi's search for a very reliable strategic partner. Enter the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue or the Quad. Initially proposed in 2007 but quickly shelved due to diplomatic hesitations, the Quad was revived in earnest around 2017. This is 10 years after Quad was first proposed. Composed of 4 major countries, India, the United States, Japan and Australia, the alliance began as an informal grouping but has since gained strategic heft. Its focus is on preserving a free and open Indo-Pacific. India's engagement with Quad shows its efforts to balance and contain China's regional ambitions. However, India's approach to Quad has always been cautious, not calling it a military alliance. Instead, India frames its Quad participation in terms of cooperative initiatives like maritime security, infrastructure development, and supply chain resilience. While India increasingly engaged with the Quad, its long-standing relationship with Russia kept running parallelly. Now, let us not forget that India-Russia ties have historically been based on critical sectors like defense cooperation, energy, and geopolitical alignment on non-Western multipolarity. Coming to the SCO or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, this alliance is often seen as a China-driven platform, often dubbed as the Asian NATO, but not by India. The SCO presents a strategic paradox for New Delhi as it brings India to engage with both China and Pakistan under the same institutional umbrella. Beijing uses the SCO to boost its regional influence in Central Asia and support its BRI, while Pakistan seeks stronger ties with Central Asia as well. India joins mainly to avoid being sidelined in Eurasia, stay engaged in regional energy and security talks, and counter the China-Pakistan narratives from within the SCO. Unlike its active role in the Indo-Pacific through Quad, India's approach to the SCO is also cautious, reflecting its careful balance in a China-led multipolar world. Now, Russia first proposed the RIC in the late 1990s as a counterbalance to Western dominance. However, of course, it had to try to revive the RIC amid growing Western isolation since the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022. Moscow now sees RIC as a way to strengthen non-Western alliances, as together the trio covers 19% of world's land and generates over a third of global GDP. India, however, has engaged with RIC more as a diplomatic necessity than as a strategic anchor. The platform offers India a direct channel with both China and Russia, especially during periods of heightened regional tension. But it's not India's preferred grouping. It's limited to institutionalization, and the asymmetry between China and India within the group limits its utility for New Delhi. India's participation is thus primarily about symbolism, signaling that it remains open to multipolar engagement even while deepening its ties with its Western partners. The major question is, for India, why RIC if BRICS already exists? If RIC was a Russia-driven project, BRICS offered a broader, more institutionalized avenue for India to engage in South-South cooperation and an alternative global governance framework. BRICS gained momentum in the 2000s as emerging economies sought greater representation in international institutions. India, as founding member, embraced BRICS to pursue development financing, economic cooperation, and multilateral reform, particularly of the UN and international financial institutions. It remains a platform India cannot afford to exit. Doing so would concede diplomatic space to Beijing and isolate India from a crucial non-Western forum like the BRICS. India has also used BRICS Summit to push for issues for counter-terrorism and inclusive development while quietly resisting Beijing's dominance. While India's balancing act between China and Russia evolved, its relationship with the US has also added a layer of complexity. In the early 2000s, US-India relations underwent a major transformation, particularly after the 2005 US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement. It's very important to note that the two countries expanded defense cooperation, signed foundational military agreements, and conducted regular joint exercises like the Malabar. However, under the Trump administration, the relationship has currently hit new turbulence. President Trump's America First policies led to growing trade frictions. It has also led to growing trade frictions with other countries, but India is a unique situation. The US imposed tariffs on Indian steel and aluminium. It also withdrew India's preferential trade status under the Generalized System of Preferences in 2019, an important mechanism that had allowed India duty-free exports to the Indian market. These moves have strained this bilateral US-India trade relationship. Trump has also repeatedly criticized India's trade practices, calling India the tariff king, and threatened further sanctions. Finally, on 30th July this year, Trump announced a 25% tariff rate on Indian exports to the US. This is significantly higher than India's immediate neighbors, displaying a deteriorating US-India relationship. For India, the takeaway was clear. Even strategic convergence with Washington does not guarantee economic stability or consistency. Thus, India's foreign policy today reflects this layered complexity. It actively participates in the Quad to contain China's military and strategic assertiveness, but it also maintains engagement with BRICS and the RIC to preserve its regional influence and long-standing ties with Russia. It continues to build a strong partnership with the United States. This approach, often labeled as multi-alignment or strategic autonomy, is a modern evolution of India's historic non-alignment policy. Unlike the Cold War era, however, India is now an emerging power with global aspirations. Its balancing act is not about staying out of power politics, but about shaping them in its own terms. In an age of uncertainty, India's greatest strength may well lie in its ability to stand at crossroads, connected to all, yet beholden to none. That is all from us today. This is Garima, and you are watching the Asian Chronicles.